It's time to talk all things property and catch up with our good mate of the show, property commentator Ashley Church. Ashley, hello.
Hello. I have to say, whenever I think of breakdancing, I always think of that terrible 80s video of Poye.
Oh, I loved the song though, Ashley. Don't knock the song, but that's right. And he does the breakdancing.
He does.
It takes me back, Ashley, when I was a teenager, and we used to go up. We'd go into town on Friday nights, meet up with our mates, and they'd put down the cardboard and the boys would do breakdancing. That was my era.
Another life, wasn't it?
I know, it was another. I never did it. My boyfriend did it, but it was hilarious. And very quickly, before we move on, the Olympics. Are you excited about the Olympics?
Not overly. I know I should be.
Me neither.
More excited than the Commonwealth Games, which aren't really a thing anymore, but only a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if we win, I'll be pleased. But
Yeah, I suppose when it gets into it, I'll watch bits and pieces. But I don't know. I not like when I was younger. I used to love it as much. All right, let's talk property. That's what you're here for. We've got a few things to talk about, and let's kick it off with the surgeon. Houses that we are seeing being listed for sale now. The Real Estate Institute noted high interest rates is the reason properties are now coming to the market, noting the first 2 weeks of this month, listings were up almost 49%, apparently. Is this a case of sell it before the bank does?
Oh, possibly, although the days of, the inference in that question is that somehow the bank's going to sort of pounce in and, do something nasty if you don't sell it before they do because you're in a little bit of financial trouble. But to be honest, the days of banks sort of swooping in and selling your house for whatever they could get for it in order to recover their debt, it kind of disappeared in the 90s. They had a pretty bad experience in the 90s where they used to go out with mortgagee signs on properties that had gone up for mortgagee sale. And so people knew that it was a mortgagee sale, so they would go in and they would pay less than the price their house might otherwise have achieved if it was on the open market. And there were some terrible experiences, and the impact on the banks in terms of reputational risk was shocking. So I think the banks kind of swore off doing that. And so in most cases now, if the banks are doing a mortgagee sale, you won't even know it. But to be fair to them, they're actually pretty good these days, and they will go out of their way to work with distressed homeowners before they get to that point. So while there might be a bit of that going on, I suspect it's more just that people are in dire straits in terms of their own finances. It's not necessarily anything to do with the banks.
I don't know. I haven't seen figures. You might know, but has there been a bit of a jump maybe in investors too that are no longer captured by the Bright Line test?
Well, I was just going to say that's exactly why. So after the 1st of July, when the Bright Line test basically went back to 2 years, there will have been investors who were hanging on with their fingernails until that time and can now list. And if they sell, they're not going to be up for that effectively capital gains tax. So there'll be a bit of that as well. But it's, as you said at the beginning, it's most likely to be to do with the fact that interest rates are really hurting people. That there are people who are in positions where they're finding it difficult to afford their mortgage, so they're looking to sell and downsize to properties they can afford.
Can we just look a little bit? I know you've explained mortgagee sales, but I'm interested because Trade Me is currently listing about 50 properties. They're saying that are mortgagee sales. So if you do get one, is it? It's not a guaranteed bargain, is it? Because they are different, obviously, from a normal sale. Meaning, isn't it? A lot of it is sold as is. You don't get the right to pre-purchase inspection. There's all those things that go with it.
Yeah, so the first part of your question is no, it's not a guaranteed, great deal,
bargain.
But the perceptions there that it's a bargain. So people go in with the idea that they can offer a ridiculous price because the bank's basically just going to sell it. And as I say, that's not happening to anything like the degree that it was. The only time that would happen is if the banks have been frustrated by somebody who was just basically not cooperating with them and just sort of needed to end it. But there's a lot of water that goes under the bridge before they get to that point. And of course the flip side of that is that you've got to assume that there's somebody out there who's got deep enough pockets that they can actually go and take advantage of those deals, and there's not a lot of them around at the moment either. So it's a tough time for everybody. It's a tough time for buyers. It's a tough time for sellers, and we just want to get past this and into a better market.
Yeah, true. Let's have a look at something else. According to new research by Deloitte, fewer than half the population are likely to own a home in the next 25 years. Less than 60% of Kiwis currently own their own home, and this number will continue, they say, decline based on current trends. Should we be looking more at, say, shared home ownership pathways, or just accept that some will just rent for their entire lives?
Well, firstly, let me attack the issue. So, firstly, that what they said's nonsense. And two things. So, firstly,
Nonsense.
So, firstly, the current rate of home ownership is about 64%. And here's the thing, Leah, that figure's been really consistent for almost 100 years. So, if you go back to 1926, it was 64%. It was sitting at around 63 in 1951. It went up to about 71% in the late 80s, dropped back down again, but the long run average is about 64% and has been for a long time. So, I've heard this before. I've heard people coming out saying home ownership's a thing of the past. People are going to rent. It doesn't pan out, and all of the evidence suggests that that's not going to happen. So, don't accept their premise. Putting that aside, should we be looking at other ways of owning properties and more creative and innovative ways? Yeah, absolutely. That's an ongoing thing, and there are things that people are doing now that perhaps they wouldn't have done 10 years ago. The idea of buying apartments, for example, that weren't even a thing 30 years ago. I've got a niece who works in a law firm, and her and some other staff in that law firm, there was 5 of them, 4 young women, bought a house between them.
Yes, excellent.
And, and it was great. And they did that for a while, and then they've all moved on to separate phases in their life. And I think they're keeping the property as an investment, and at some stage they'll extract their capital out of it. But, so there's lots of different things that you can do that we wouldn't have imagined 10, 20, 30 years ago.